Nerds everywhere, this game between herO and Olivera is something truly special. We saw a game from herO that included a tremendous amount of greed, used adepts to the fullest value I've ever seen adepts be used, and still had him lose to Olivera, who went on to beat Maru 4-1 for the World Championship. A storyline that no one could have seen coming. He had a 6% chance of winning, according to Aligulac in that game. He had a 24% chance of winning this series. And he walked into Olympus and he slayed all the gods. So I wanted to highlight this particular game with herO and Olivera because it's really interesting. To start, we have a probe going across the map at about 1 minute to put down a proxy pylon. What happens in the base is relatively standard, but because of this, it slows down other things that herO is doing. So his natural expansion, which would be the second base that he's going to build down here in the bottom left-hand corner, so just right over here, he'll build it right here when it's ready. This is going to be really delayed. It's not going to be here right on time because he spent all of his money here. Olivera is doing a pretty normal thing. He's getting this super annoying problem with this probe that he has, so he places his expansion a little off-center here. But he's just doing a normal build, a really, really normal build, just kind of normal timings for everything, getting his normal Reaper stuff. Gets this unit over here, and this is the first critical moment that we have where where Olivera sees that herO's base is just now starting, and this sets off an alarm bell. You can see he sees it and immediately turns around. And then this Reaper takes out this probe, which means that herO doesn't really have anything forward to like scout his opponent with and be annoying with to keep him at home anymore. And this Reaper immediately goes checking for a proxy. This Reaper sees, oh, it's a gateway. Cool. We'll be protected. Pulls down some units, builds a bunker, grabs this, builds another Marine, and he's going to be pretty safe. The Adept comes in and starts being really annoying. Shades over here, sees that it can't really do anything about this, tries to take out an SCV, doesn't work. Good micro from Olivera. But really, the crux of this, oh yeah, see, good micro, pulling these things back. This bunker's going to finish, and it's going to make this a lot more difficult. But he has another Adept coming. He has another Adept here that just finished as well. And this is kind of where the game starts to get really interesting, because these Adepts get so much value. I'm not kidding you. These Adepts start this pressure at this time, right around 3 minutes. It does not let up for 4 minutes. On every single cooldown, practically, he will shade these Adepts over into the base, and he will cause all sorts of problems for Olivera. It keeps Olivera at home for literally 4 minutes of the game, and truly should have put him into a winning position, and it does get him into a winning position, although you can see he's a little bit supply blocked right now. Not the greatest look herO. It really puts him in a great position. And these Adepts are going to do an amount of work that I didn't know Adepts could do until I saw this game. And it's just 3 of them. He has these 3. He's got another one that's back here that's popping out. Yeah, you can see it's shading in. But there's some really incredible micro that comes out here. This Adept is really low. The Reaper is really low. They're kind of battling over which one's going to die first. This Reaper is playing chicken a little bit. Comes over, kills this Adept, but in the process goes down only 2 HP. This moves over. This moves over here into the thing. Kills the Reaper. This is the other inflection point. Because his Reaper is dead, it means he can't get across the base and he can't see exactly what herO's doing. And that, because herO knows that, herO knows this Reaper's dead, that means I have full control of the map at this point in time. I can be extra greedy. And these Adepts, I'm just going to leave them down here so you can see that the cooldown happens. This Cyclone comes in and does enough to like really keep them away, but they join up with this third Adept over here, and I'm not kidding when I say on cooldown, he uses this every single cooldown. And it's going to happen for the next 3 minutes. It's not until 7 minutes that these things die. And look at how much what this does to Olivera. He hasn't even built his starport yet. He can't really afford it. Because he went for a tank because these Adepts are so threatening, so he can't really get the tank right now. And I'm telling you, every cooldown, these Adepts are shading in constantly. It becomes a tremendous thorn in Olivera's side here. You can see shading again. every single cooldown. It was really impressive. It became basically part of his macro cycle. And back at home, we have herO going with blink and an observer here, which is usually a pretty normal thing that you would see while he's getting this third base up. Because essentially what you want is you're going to build some blink stalkers, and then you're going to have an observer that's kind of like routing around the sides of the base here. And you're going to blink in and blink out. You're going to keep the Terran at home, and he's not going to really be able to go anywhere. And it works, but what's really working the most is that these adepts are doing that exact thing right now. And this is where I think the first big misstep for herO was, is that he got blink here. And I think that if he had gotten charge instead and then gotten these two gases, the game would have been a very different mid-game, because if he has these gases going down at around 5 minutes, which would be right about now, and he can almost nearly afford them. I think that if he builds the gases right now here, instead of building some units to do this weird blink thing, that he's just scared. He's scared right now because what would normally happen is that there'd be a starport out on the way, but instead he invested in a tank. And because he invested in that, he couldn't get the starport down as quickly, and so there's no starport. But herO doesn't know that. Like, herO just straight up doesn't know that, because he can't get in the base to see anything. While these adepts are doing a good job of keeping Olivera at home, it's not seeing into the base. He can't see the tech structures that are going on here. He also sees that there's no gases here, so he can't really be teching that hard. But these adepts, I'm telling you, these adepts did a serious amount of work in this game. Every single freaking cooldown, man. I'm telling you, it was crazy. The starport just now goes down. But again, I think that this was the mistake. Going into blink, I think, was a mistake here. I think you should go charge, and I think you go this way. If you go with blink, then I think you need to double forge and then gateway explode so that you can get +1/+1 as soon as possible. Because what's going to happen with the Terran on 2 base, and every Protoss in the world knows this from having played on the ladder, they're just going to keep building units until you can't deal with them. And that's really what's going to happen in this game, is that Olivera just keeps building units, keeps macroing, doesn't take any damage from these adepts, or takes very little damage from these adepts, even though they're keeping him at home. It doesn't really matter, because to him, he's going for a combat shields and +1 with stim timing attack. And at 8 minutes, he's going to come knocking on herO's door, and he's going to say, what can you do about this? Do you have anything to answer for this? You can see herO recognizes the need for charge is really high here, because he's a super gateway man. He doesn't have any other gases. He's fully mineral heavy, and it's going to start causing him problems, because he's not going to be able to tech basically at all. herO starts doing his blink pressure here. This is usually what happens in a normal game, is that you build all these stalkers, you start rooting around the edges of the base, you start blinking in and blinking out, causing a lot of havoc. That's why nothing is built over here also. But these adepts have been doing that exact thing this whole time. But and like, what's actually really funny here is that Olivera, right around now, he moves his units forward, and you can see he moves them back, which looks really normal. And I wanted you to see, just outside of herO's vision, I don't think he saw this. Let's go back to this and look at this. These 2 units are going to move out to go and scout. herO's vision doesn't see that. All he sees are these. So he has no idea about that. He still ends up moving the adepts kind of back into the middle of the map, because what he's really trying to do with what these are really serving as is a map control device, so that he can control the vision of the map and deny any scouting. But the problem is, look at this. He sees this Marine here. Olivera responds by seeing this Marine and stimming it. And he stims it all the way over to this base, and he queues him up to see everything. Goes right by all these stalkers and everything. Keeps his homies at home. He ends up taking a little bit of damage here, but these adepts have done everything they needed to do. We're 7 minutes into the game now. He's kept the Terran at home. The Terran hasn't dropped a single time because he couldn't afford the dang starport because he had to build a tank to defend against 3 adepts that have been shading in his base every 10 seconds for 4 minutes. Absolutely insane. But this unit says everything for Olivera. He sees a 3rd base. He sees he can get to the natural. And if he gets to the natural, he can see how many gases there are. And he sees there's no gases. He says, I have a starport with 2 more medevacs on the way. I've already got 2 on the map. I've got 20 Marines and 6 Marauders. What do you have? What have you got? You don't have gases. You can't possibly have splash damage. You can't possibly have upgrades. Brother, I got +1. I got combat shields. I have stim. My army has 2 tanks. And I've got a starport with a reactor on it. I'll build this expansion, but I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm going... Look at this. This is his response. I'm making units. And as he does, he takes out the warp prism. And it ends the game for herO basically right now. This game is now fully in Olivera's control. herO may have an economic advantage, but his gases are late. He may have an army that can keep the Terran at home for a little bit, but he has no splash damage yet. He's in for a world of hurt. This army is too powerful for him. And this is the problem that happens when you keep a Terran on 2 bases for too long, is that they start teching up and they start getting upgrades, and their army becomes so big that you need splash damage, and if you spend all your time getting a forge instead of a splash damage building, which you can get, which should have been down 2 minutes ago, you're just gonna die. He builds his Templar archives at 747. He's had the gas for it, and he could have had the gas for it way earlier. Like I said, he places back at 5 minutes. He takes these gases and he puts up a Templar archives a minute earlier. This thing takes 36 seconds to build, and it's 80 seconds for the upgrade. My boy needs 2 minutes more. How many minutes did he get out of those adepts? 4. He now needs to get 2 minutes out of these stalkers. And I'm going to tell you right now, it can't happen. herO comes in to poke and prod at this army, but Olivera at 8 minutes says, "No, I'll just march. I'll march across the base. Let's see what you got." They're on equal footing, but I want to note here, 60 probes to 48 SCVs. This army is huge, and it's devastatingly hard for Protoss to deal with when you do not have splash damage. An army this size has to be dealt with splash damage, and herO just can't really do anything about it. herO's trying to buy time with this. These stalkers, he needs about, what can we say? So he needs about 20, yeah, he needs about 100 seconds more of time before he's actually ready to do anything. But that's not what's going to happen in this game. Olivera proceeds to march across the map. Just protecting his units. Scans to see what's going on here. Sees this finishing. And immediately unsieges and says, "Oh, it's that kind of a game. Let's go, buddy. Let's go. We're gonna fight. You don't have anything to deal with this, and you are going to die." herO does an incredible job in this engagement. I'm not gonna lie. One thing very cool here that I wanted to highlight, Olivera within the first 2 seconds of this fight, within the first millisecond of this fight, target fires with these 2 tanks on the stalkers to deal all of this damage. Look at this. Boom. Boom. This shot doesn't go off because of this herO immortal over here, but it doesn't matter. this tank lives long enough to deal enough damage, this set of units cannot beat this set of units. It's a tale as old as time. And Olivera makes the move of a century. He jumps back and pulls the boys. The greatest SCV pull possibly of all time. We've seen a lot of really incredible SCV pulls in the history of StarCraft. We've not seen one this powerful before. And what Olivera recognized, again, is that he saw no gases in the natural. He saw a Templar Archives just finishing, and he said, I have an entire minute of time right here that you can't do anything about mass units. So he grabs these units, says, screw my base, screw your army, screw your base, I'm taking you to town. These probes die in an incredible fashion. 24 just disappear immediately. And on the front line, he just continues to march forward. He just continues to march forward. He places these. Look at this. The tactical mastery that Olivera displays here. Recognizing that when you came to fight me over here, you fought me from multiple angles. So you must be trying to fight me from over here too, huh? Let me put my liberators over here to make that really hard on you. Comes over, kills all these probes, kills all of his units, and marches forward to the end of the game. herO can't do anything about this. He is now down below workers, despite the fact that Olivera pulled almost half of his economy. And Olivera is just going to run home, streaming units across the map to take out herO. This game takes him to 2-1 in the series. It was an incredible display of mastery from Olivera in the matchup, and it was a really incredible game of StarCraft that I think a lot of people aren't recognizing that this didn't matter. The placement of this, everyone was like, oh, if he didn't place it there, he could have won the game. No, the placement of this didn't matter. The timing of it did. The timing of these was so late that this couldn't even be bought earlier. And I tell you, if he had bought this a minute and a half earlier, this engagement that happens over here is way different. This engagement that happens here when it's the boys versus the boys is completely different. That's what sold the game. That's what changed the game. The placement of this didn't matter. The timing of it did. Olivera goes up 2-1. He ends up beating herO in the game after this in dominant fashion. Goes on to play Maro in the grand finals and wins 4-1. An incredible game by Olivera. Most importantly, he taught all Protoss in the world that if you can hold a Terran army and a Terran to 2 bases for 4 minutes with 3 adepts, maybe tech up to some splash damage.